Finance Act. Well, many thanks for joining me this morning, and welcome to the Morning Live right here at EBN TV. Yesterday, the court issued, or rather ruled that now the Finance Act case will proceed to a full hearing. What does that mean?
Thank you very much. My name is Oruko Were, and you see, whenever a case is presented before the court, one of the things you expect when a case is presented before the court is that a court has to make decision as to whether they think it's important for the case to proceed, or they think it's not important for the case to proceed. And it's usually called balances of rights, where the court is looking at Kenyans who are likely to suffer if a decision is made, and Kenyans who are likely to be prejudiced when such decisions are made. And now, in this case, the petition was brought before the court, and this petition is brought because of the issues of Finance Act. And when this petition is brought before the court is trying to help us to understand that it can come in and it can exercise its powers with respect to invalidation, with respect to helping us balance the both sides. Now, this case, the court decided, first of all, the court had given a stay on this case, I think on the 5th of July.
Yes.
Now, when the stay was given and the conservatory order given in this case was trying to tell the government that on this Finance Act 2023, we are not going to allow you to continue on it until both sides of the nation are okay with it. Now, yesterday, the respondents were seeking to have this stay order shelved. And you see, this is also the same to what was happening in 2019 when you had the same issue. And in 2019 when you had the same issue, the High Court, in this case, was allowing the government 9 months to, within which the National Assembly, the Senate, they can come together and agree, and as they continue collecting funds to continue running the nation. But now, in this one, it's tricky because there are some rights which are attached, which are very vital. And one of them is, first of all, tax, which has increased. And you see the economy is not doing very well with respect to very many Kenyans. We also have the issue of this 1.5, where I'm like, take it this way. I come and tell you, be giving me 1,000 every month, I'll not give you this money for 7 years, and you don't know what I'll do with it. So the court then refused to issue, to stay this conservatory order, and they decided that let us put this file before CJ Martha Koome, and let CJ constitute a bench of 3 judges, and let this matter move to hearing. As to how it affects Kenyans, there has been many lies going around that the government will not be able to operate, the government this, the government that. We expect that because this is a political field. Yes. And every part will be playing and jumping aside and trying to pull the ball to their side. However, that's not true. This act has been stayed by the court. Yes. But we continue with the Finance Bill of 2022. So that, remember, the court has issued something called conservatory order. Yes. It is just preserving the thing as it is. You continue collecting with the other one, but let us first deliberate and look at the parts of this new Finance Act that are going contrary to the rights that are provided for in the Constitution. And that's now what the court is coming in and checking and telling them that just wait a little bit. They wanted 7 days, they wanted 14 days, but the court was saying no, because if the court allowed that stay, then it means that the court partially has allowed the Finance Act to start being in operation. And that by itself then will go contrary to what the petitioners were seeking before the court. Yeah.
An interesting one, because last week the state had pleaded with the court to lift the orders, saying that it will affect the treasury. Is it likely to affect the treasury, or rather, what is the way forward? Because now, if the court is now seeking, or rather has suspended the case, or rather has pushed the case forward to face discussion of the 3-judge bench to hear and determine is it likely to affect the treasury? And what is now the government supposed to do? Are they supposed to continue with the 2022-2023 finance bill or other act?
Right now, of course, when the new government comes in, they have their plans. The Kenya Kwanza government had a plan, and maybe they want to sort the issue of housing in Kenya.
Yes.
Maybe they want to increase tax here and there, and we've had the president and the deputy president saying that they are facing financial issues even when they came in, and they want to raise more to cure some of the debt issues that we have in the country. However, it's a lie that the government operations will stop. It's a lie. Because remember, it is not that we don't have a new act to continue raising the funds.
Yes.
No. We have it, but the court has put some stay orders on it. That means we continue with the 2022 one up to the time that the court allows this one to start being in operation. The only thing that it may affect might be the amount they wanted to raise,
Yes.
the total amount at the end of the day.
Yes.
But also, we look at it this way. Should we allow the government to operate unconstitutionally,
Yes.
or should we allow the government to do whatever they want to do, but within the law?
Yes.
And that's why the petitioners are now moving, that we want decisions to be made, but within the law. That's where the problem is. So the petitioners per se, as it has been said, don't have an issue with the Finance Act per se. They have issues with, I think it's around 23 provisions within the Act.
Yes.
And they're trying to tell the government that these provisions that you're bringing, some of them are unconstitutional. You see? Some of them are unlawful. You have not followed the process. Now, the government needs to follow the process when you're coming up with the law, to allow to discourage some of these things called, I call them wastage of time. Because even you, today, if you're making a decision and you know the process that has to be followed, failure to follow that decision means that you understand that someone will move to court. Yes. To have that decision either set aside or invalidated or stayed until such a time that the right procedure has been followed.
Well, interesting one. Now, you know, in the past we've seen that the government, or rather the executive, has been at loggerheads with the judiciary on matters. I remember the year 2017, after the former Chief Justice, that is David Maraga, issued, or rather overruled, the elections, the elections back then. I think it was March. Now, this time round, and you know, former President Uhuru Kenyatta, immediately he won the second elections. He said, we shall revisit. Does also this mean that is this most likely to bring the executive and judiciary at loggerheads?
You see, the three arms of government, the executive has always played the big brother. Yes. Followed by the parliament, and then the judiciary. So judiciary is always a small brother, because we don't expect our judiciary to play politics. They are more of reserved brother who prefers to keep quiet, make decisions within his scope. But the politics of the day require that the person who is the big brother will always want you to make decisions which favor them. Now, in this case, when Maraga made this decision and annulled the election, it was not Maraga per se who annulled the decision. Yes. And that's one of the things that sometimes is not seen correctly. The court does not make that decision. The court only acts as a neutral umpire to the decisions that you've made in the past, so that they'll come and tell you that we are seeing a procedure that was supposed to be followed here, but you have not followed the procedure. So we require you to follow the procedure. They are just like reminding you that this is the procedure that you said you'll follow. Yes. Please just follow it. Yes. Now, these decisions, when they are made in the court, one time you will win. Nobody loves losing. One time you will lose, one time you'll win. Now, you remember very well, when the decision was made, Raila Odinga's side were very happy in 2017. Yes. Roughly months later, when another decision was made, and Raila Odinga's side were now not happy, it was Uhuru's side which was now becoming happy. But the judiciary must always suffer when they make such kind of decisions because of the politics of the day and how our politics is webbed. So they find themselves in a situation whereby you have to play the umpire, but one party wants you to favor their side. As to what's happening currently, and the judiciary ruled on the CAS position, remember? They have now ruled on the issue of, on this stay order on the Finance Act. Some decisions might be touching on the primary place of the government. And the government might be feeling like, and I've seen some politicians, including, I think, Senator Chirargei, who was trying to throw jibes at the judiciary. It doesn't come out well. But the judiciary has to make that decision. And remember what I told you. The judiciary sits in between decisions that are made. And whenever a petitioner comes before the judiciary does not go and look for those petitioners. We are just sitting in our space. The two of you go out there, do your thing. But whenever any party is wronged, they then can move into judiciary to require that some corrections be done. And these are constitutional provisions that people must always understand, that for as long as we have a constitution, the constitution allows you to petition. First of all, the constitution tells you that every decision that has to be made by any organ of the government, any body, must be constitutional. That is Article 2. Must be constitutional. And if it is not, if it is affecting your right, then you can move to the court. You see?
Yes.
Down there in 22, 23, 24, you can move to the court to have this decision either quashed, invalidated, a conservatory order issued to preserve the matter, and all those kind of decisions. Yeah.
Well, and if the court rules against the Finance Act, say now the three-judge bench has had the case and now determines, let's say they rule against the 23 issues raised by the petitioners, then what next? What should now be the next move? Is it now for Parliament again to sit and discuss the issues raised and negotiate, or rather, what next?
There's usually one of the hardest part is that for us to reintroduce it back to the Parliament, you have to wait for 6 months. That's number one.
Yes.
And that will mean that the government will have lost half an year of collection of taxes. That's one. Number two, when you look at the Finance Act, we might then now move to the Appropriation Act, and where now the Parliament will be looking at it and saying that for the projects that need to be done in the country, then these projects, we need to vote on these projects one by one and have money removed from the consolidated account and fund these projects. Because there are projects which cannot stop in the country. Assume something like security. It can't stop. If security was to stop today for even 1 hour, it will be very risky for the country. So we move under Appropriation Act, and now we come project by project and we vote on various projects which are ongoing so that they can continue going. But in the country, the way the law has been webbed, it doesn't allow for the government operations to stop, per se. And that's why you see they look for orders which allow the government to continue its operation based on a law which existed as we sort this matter. Because so that we don't have someone who is petitioning appearing malicious. Because if the government is in operation, then it's an advantage to both of us, to me and to you. So they can move through the Appropriation Act.
Well, and now you've just talked about the 6 months. That is if the court rules against the Finance Act. Well, and we've seen Nandi Senator, that is Samson Cherargei, now threatening the judiciary of favor. Now the question is, do you think that, 6 months is a lot of time? Can't the government have power, or rather find a way to manipulate the decision?
One thing about the government that you have to know, there is usually this an old saying that the person who disrespects, who goes against the court rulings in the world is always the government. So any government in the world, most of them, you see, I told you, they play the big brother. So they can sometimes look at the other brother and say, though the constitution per se does not rank them, the constitution does not rank them in any way. However, because of the interplays of the politics, we have judiciary always plays number 3, and then executive and parliament. So the government can just decide to arm twist 1, 2, 3, and you've seen what our one of the honorable members, Osoro, was saying that maybe we can spend money the way we spent it. They're trying to tell you that, yes, you know what, we give these people money. If worst comes to worst, we can also try to do the thing.
That's an interesting one, because now, you know, this is an elected leader who is expected to actually lead in a just way. But now, you see, Silvanus Osoro was quoted in speaking Kisii, saying that some MPs were sponsored to travel abroad, others to fake ailments, and others just to miss, that is under the Azimio side. And now he also came some few days later to deny that and accuse the media of misquoting him. But then one question that people have been asking, is it that there are no professional journalists from Kisii who understand whatever you said? It's interesting because, you know, as the whip, definitely he is now supposed to lead others, or rather the Kenya, to make sure that the Kenya Kwanza members of parliament are always in support of the government agendas in parliament. And he is coming out to tell people that though he spoke in his mother tongue, we spent a little. Now we will have also, we might. What kind of a leader is that? What kind of impression does he give to Kenyans, especially those who are pro-government?
And you see, these are the things that are affecting the Finance Act. Because there's usually a rule that whenever justice whenever we are going through the process of ensuring that justice is preferred on anyone, it should be seen, not only done, but it should also be seen that if you look at your friend, you're able to see that anyway, justice was done here. Now, if you come to this Finance Act, first of all, we have issues with it because of nobody wants, at this time of the economy in the country, nobody wants even 0.1% of the amount they're earning to be deducted. And if it is to be deducted, then we want a lot of information about it. If you look at the assertions that Osoro is making, at the time when we think the Finance Act might not have been procured in a better manner. So if he makes that kind of decision, then I'm asking myself two questions. First, where is the place of Chief Whip in this country? That's number one. Because this is a very, very, very important office whereby you can negotiate with your KK MPs, but you can also cross and try to reach out to some of these opposition and tell them. You see, it's not like a fight. You tell them, hey, this is why we need this and this and this. Maybe if you don't understand, this is why we need it. But now if you tell me that you convinced them in any other manner other than what is legal, then it calls to Chapter 6 of the Constitution. And I'm looking at you and saying, being an officer, there is behavior that is required of you as a person and as an officer. And these interests should never come to cross one another. Any act that you do as a government officer should be legal. It should be a legal act so that you don't come and tell me that I gave this guy some money to stay away. Now, it also questions the place of some of the parliamentarians. Because if that's how the transaction is going, then how will I maybe tomorrow trust a parliamentarian who says that I'm not feeling well when a very, very important decision is to be made? You see, how do I come now and trust some of these guys? And those are the things that you see are injuring Kenyans and are making them not to understand why they need to accept this Finance Act. And I don't think I like that kind of assertions. Whatever he said, he knows what he said. If I'm Kisii and you speak kiss it directly to me. I know what you mean. I can discern what you're saying, what you mean, what you intend. I can discern all of them. It's not like you are the only person who is intelligent in that community, so that if you say something, everybody else understands it differently, and you're the only person who wants it understood in a certain manner. But whatever he said was gross.
Well, now that brings me to the question, or rather the quest that Azimio has been seeking with regards to the bipartisan talks. They were seeking to have the MPs who went against the coalition's agreement to resign. And also now on such an issue, if as a voter I'm not contented with someone like Silvanus Osoro, he is my member of parliament, I'm not happy with how he's conducting himself, that is an example. Is there a way to, as a Kenyan, or rather as a voter, do I have a right to see them out of office lawfully?
Yes. First, the first thing you need to understand is that the new constitution that we have 2010, we still call it new because some parts of it are still being ignored by some Kenyans. Now, the new constitution I think it should be Article 2, which states that the sovereignty of this country in Article 1 belongs first to you as a Kenyan. You as a Kenyan can choose how you want to be represented.
Yes.
Now, how you want to be represented can be directly. You can just decide, Kenyans come and say, hey, we don't want these guys to come to the parliament because whatever they're doing is not good for us. They're being paid, they're doing A, B, C, D, they don't care about us. We want to represent ourselves directly. Yes. Or they can do it through representation. Just like you can send someone to go buy you a meal, or you can decide to go and buy a meal by yourself.
Yes.
So direct representation, or we can do it through elected representatives. Now, these elected representatives, including some of these leaders you're speaking about, represent the interest of Kenyans. Now, when we send them to the parliament, we expect them, remember, they are representing you. So it is what I want that should be represented. Yes. Now, once you elect them, you usually find that they become our bosses. It's like you're given a job to do, and then you become the boss to the person who appointed you. So immediately we vote, the moment counting starts, the voter usually has lost his place or her place. Now, we have provisions in the Constitution where we have, it should be Article 104, which states that you have a right to recall an MP. If you think that this person no longer serves my interest, you have a right to recall a senator. You have a right to recall an MCA. The only person you can't recall in this country is the governor and the president.
Yes.
When it comes to governor and the president, because of the important nature of the position they hold, then we go through impeachment. You see, we can now impeach them. Now, these provisions are also provided for under the Election Act, sections 45, 46, 47, 48, which requires that the process that you have to go through when you're removing or when you're recalling a leader should also, remember, respect the law. So we should first check, what have they done? Is it going contrary to Elections Act, or what we usually term an elections offense? Number 2, is it going contrary to the Chapter 6 of the Constitution?
Yes.
Now, number 3, whatever they have done, have we gone to the High Court and High Court has declared it? Or does it also involve improprieties where you have mismanaged public funds? Now, if you look at this case, Chapter 6 is being called here. You need to behave in a manner that is of utmost integrity.
Yes.
Now, these monies that you are trying to say that were given to the MPs, it can't be personal funds. Of course, these are public resources. You see?
Yes.
Now, in which case now, maybe someone can move to High Court and have the High Court determine, because now you see also, as a person, you cannot come and tell me that I made a mistake. No. I made a mistake, yes, move to court. Court, through our adversarial nature, you present your case, I present mine, court listens, and then court decides. If court decides that this MP maybe made a mistake, then it is then that the process now starts. And believe you me, the process has been webbed in a certain manner that whatever we usually call normal mwananchi cannot even remove an MCA. Because you have the amount you have to pay. I think the administration costs goes around 10,000. After 10,000, whom are we removing? Is it an MCA? Is it an MP? Is it a senator?
Yes.
Now, if you're removing MCA, there's an amount you have to pay. If you're removing MP, there's an amount you have to pay. I think it's around 100,000.
Yes.
Now, a normal mwananchi cannot afford even to buy unga right now at 240 or I don't know, 260. Now, also, you need to tread carefully because should you start the process, which should start after this person being in office for 24 months. There have been, I think, is it 9 months now?
Yes.
So, still there's a technicality there. Technicality number one. Remember, you had also spoken about technicality of going to court and winning the case. Going to court costs you. We have the technicality of paying for admin costs. We have the technicality of putting some money down. And then we have another technicality. You must be a voter, first of all, in that. You must be a voter in that, in that county. But besides that, you must have been someone who is eligible to vote when this person was being elected.
Yes.
Now, those kind of things, they mean that it's a bit hard to recall an MP. And they know.
Yes.
And that's why now you see they make some assertions, and they don't care. They just state what they want to say, and they just do it because they know before you can make this kind of decision, it becomes hard, and you can only make it once, by the way. If you mess with it and you recall an MP and it does not go through, then now try to imagine what this guy is going to become after now he knows that that one did not go through, so you can't recall me. So he now starts making some of those decisions. So it becomes it's a bit tough to recall an MP or even an MCA or even a senator in the country. That's why you see them throwing those words, and sometimes you even wonder, is this person really a leader, or is this person the one being led? Yeah.
Well, quite an interesting one. You know, most Kenyans didn't know that they do have power to recall their members of parliament constitutionally. Well, now just taking a swift look before we now move to matters politics and the Azimio demonstrations. Remember, initially Okiya Omtata wanted that the EPRA boss be charged with a contempt of court after increasing fuel prices to roughly 195 for petrol and 179 for diesel, despite the court ruling that the Finance Act should not be implemented. Well, does it mean that now, if the case is now proceeding to the 3-judge bench who will hear and determine the case, does it mean that the EPRA boss will, or rather his contempt of court request by Okiya Omtata will be thwarted?
Per se, it will not be thwarted. Any person who goes against a court order should be punished. It has become a habit in the country, but it's becoming a habit because the court has not come out boldly to punish these people. Remember, we had this issue being with Matiang'i the other time when the court orders were being made, the president on the issues of appointment of judges, and now we are seeing it. We even saw it the other time with CAS. Remember when we had 23 CAS issues, and then president goes ahead and adds 27. You see even the joke in this issue. The court is telling you, hey, wait first, let's consider this issue. You tell the court, you know what? See this 23, you're talking about this 23, let me add another 27. Now we have the EPRA boss coming in and making a decision with the full knowledge that this matter is before the court, and the court has stated categorically that stay this matter. But you go ahead and assume that, hey, I didn't see that, Mimi, I'll just go ahead and make my own decisions. So contempt of court does not fall. And in this case, EPRA boss should be found to be culpable personally, not even the institution per se, but even those ones who made that decision. If the decision stops with the EPRA boss, then the EPRA boss should be found to be culpable of contempt of court and should be punished because of that. Because leaving that, if the EPRA boss goes against this kind of decision made by the court, this is the boss. What do you expect of the juniors? The juniors will also be like, if the boss made this kind of decision, then we were protected. If the court did nothing when the boss said A, B, C, D, then we are protected. We are okay with it. So the contempt does not fall.
Well, quite an interesting one. Remember, it has been an issue that Okiya Omtata sought, and the EPRA did not reduce prices of fuel, and now Kenyans still have to pay quite some good money when it comes to transport and also moving around different places. Now, let's take a shift on matters demonstrations. Yesterday, CS Kithure Kindiki, that is Interior CS, said that Azimio la Umoja should, he said it in Swahili, mkutane kwa uwanja, mmalize mambo yenyu, saa 12 jioni mwende nyumbani. Hivyo ndo sheria inasema. Does it mean that Azimio la Umoja or any other person who wants to stage demos or any other group must only meet within the confines of a stadium or a ground to air out their grievances, thereafter head home? Or are they allowed to move along the streets so long as they have a permit from the police?
Per se, it usually just to notify the police. Because remember, this is a right that has been provided by the Constitution, that you can pick it. You can, if you're disinterested in anything, or if you're dissatisfied by something, or if you feel like whatever the decision that is being made is not good with you, it's not sitting pretty with you, you can make all the noise you want. It's a constitutional provision, Article 37. You can make all the rights that you want. I mean, all the noise that you want to protect this right. So if you try to tell me to confine myself, and the same law that you're using is telling me that I have a freedom to move to any part of the country, however I want. If today I want to move from Nairobi to Mombasa, nobody tells me don't move. If I want to walk from here to Kakamega, nobody tells me don't move. You see? So if you try to confine people to protest within a certain enclosed space, then it is illegal. You have to tell us from which law are you coming from.
Yes.
We want to see that, yes, as I am protesting, I need to protest in full knowledge that I don't need to destroy anyone's property. I don't need to affect another person's rights as I exercise mine, which is okay. But now, trying to tell me that, hey, if you want to protest, if we allow that, then they'll be telling us, if you want to protest, you go in your house and protest inside there. Because it can't happen like that. Right to protest, right to picket, it's a constitutional provision. And if any constitutional provision is to be limited, then you have to go back to 24, which says, you have to check, what is the process? Why are you limiting it? What else can we do so that you don't limit it? Because this person has to enjoy this right. How is this person going to be affected if you limit the right? To what proportions do you have to limit the right? But we are coming, we are coming, and you've mentioned the Professor Kindiki. Professor Kindiki is a law professor. Law. Underline the word law.
Yes.
So he should not be making some assertions which go contrary to the law. Because he's a professor and he's someone some of us looked towards on matters law. He understands the law. He knows the law very well. And any statements contrary to the law is done deliberately. He knows very well what he's doing. He knows very well that the right to political rights are protected. I have to enjoy my political rights. Protesting, picketing rights are also protected. I have to enjoy those rights. Why am I picketing? This person, most of the people who are picketing now are picketing because of the cost of unga. Take an example, someone who earns 500 shillings, working, let's say, in a construction site. This person works hard as a Kenyan, earns 500 shillings, goes home. This person maybe has 3 kids. Try to do the mathematics. You have 3 kids. You, your wife, and the 3 kids. 5 people. You know from where I come from, ugali is valued. So try to do that. We have 240 for unga now. We have for sugar. Let's say this person takes unga 120. The 500 reduces to 380. Sukari, 1 kg now is around 200. So let's say you take half, 120. It reduces down to 260 already. You know this person did not walk to work. You have to take matatu to and fro, 100. It reduces to 200. So this thing goes reducing to a certain way that, and you see we're speaking about one meal. You have not talked about the breakfast.
Lunch.
or lunch. And in some places, people are now eating only one meal. So this person has to pick it and tell the government that, you know what, you came here, you told me the prices of goods will go down. And if they're not going down, then, and you're in the office, and you see some of these offices, they are soundproof. Some of these people in the government offices can't hear the noise. So if we come and maybe start speaking outside the door, they won't even hear it. We have to make noise.
Yes.
So this noise is protected. And there's something Kindiki said which was also very important. He told the police that, please, don't go ahead hurting people. These are your brothers.
Yes, that is an interesting one, because I remember initially I've gone to cover demonstrations, but by the virtue of Kenyans, or rather the protesters coming, shouting and moving around, you know, I think it is a culture that I've seen. When you see these guys, you launch tear gas canisters and you start dispersing them. But now Kindiki is saying, if they're not armed, allow them to carry their placards and sing their songs, they will go home. Ikiwezekana wasindikizwe. That is what he now wants.
People who have traveled know very well that someone can just pick it. And they know very well that the interaction between the police and Mwananchi should be cordial. You see, police is doing their work. What is police doing in any protest? If I'm protesting today and I'm making noise, police is making sure that I don't mess up with you who has to reach maybe to another place and do your work. Maybe an ambulance is coming and it has to follow a certain route. Police wants to ensure that the right of this patient is also protected and he reaches the hospital. If I'm doing business, I'm selling maybe water to the protesters. Police wants to make sure that the protester is not hit by the tear gas, because the water is needed by both the protester and the police. So in this case, Kindiki is trying to tell them that, you guys, you have to understand that we are no longer in the old constitution. We're in the new constitution, which allows some of these rights. If you don't start fighting these people, they won't also start causing the mayhem, the after effects of this kind of situations. But you see, some of our institutions are still, I think they usually operate, they have their own law, specific law which they subscribe to, which we can't understand.
Yes. Well, and now, you know, police have been accused of using excessive force in dispersing protesters, and during the Sabasaba, 6 Kenyans lost their lives, and a few, especially 3 from Kisii County, after police are said to have used live ammunition. Then what is the process of holding the police officers who will be found culpable to account?
You see, one thing some of our brothers and our sisters who are in the police force need to understand is that any act of criminal nature is personal.
Yes.
So if you engage yourself in an excessive use of force and it ends up maybe leading to a criminal offense, then you are culpable. At that time, we will undress you on the police uniform, we will dress you in the Mwananchi uniform, and we'll meet in court. And when you meet in court is when now some of them start to realize that maybe I'm alone in this one. I don't think any Kenyan at this time should lose their life. No, you don't need to lose your life because you are picketing. Imagine this, huh? You wake up in the morning, you don't have breakfast. You're feeling like, hey, I need to eat something.
Yes.
You go outside there to picket so that the government can understand that maybe, you know what, please take some decisions so that I can maybe have my breakfast guaranteed. And then you're killed. You see? So the police, any police who does that, then the process, they have to be reported. We have structures where you have to report them to, we usually call them, I'm forgetting the name of this commission.
IPO.
Yes.
Yes.
You have to report them, and then they start the investigation. And when they find that the police has been found culpable, then you have to move through the process of the court. And remember, we usually say that even the police who make the mistake and maybe shoots, we need to take this thing through investigation and through a legal process, because we might not understand all the circumstances apart from maybe what was reported, because maybe I was in Nairobi, this happened in Kisii. We have to take them through the process so that the evidence is adduced the police says that maybe these people attacked me and I niliogopa watu bwana.
Yes.
I was defending myself. Or the police comes and says, so that we can calculate and see that hey, this force, for as long as we think it's excessive, it wasn't. Or this force applied for as long as we think the police holding a gun maybe was excessive. So if it's found that police used excessive force, then the criminal procedure starts, and we take them through the process of the law because they're our brothers. You can't punish someone excessively. You cannot go against the law or contrary to the provisions of the law, trying to correct that which has been done unlawfully. The both of you will be of no difference. Yeah. So once you have reported, they start the process of investigating. If we find that they're culpable, then we sit down and take them through the court process and let the court decide as to what punishment sits pretty with this kind of act that has been done. Some police officers have ended up in I think I was watching the other time a police officer who says they went to handle some mandamano, and then I think to handle I think it was something like there was some thief somewhere or something, and then I think it was alleged that there was use of excessive force, and this police ended up behind the bar. You see, the ratio of police officers we have in the country with respect to the ratio of Kenyans is low. We don't want to be losing police officers to the prison. These people are trained using our taxpayers' money. Some of them are paid using our taxpayers' money. Some of them have been built using our taxpayers' money. I don't know how much it costs to train one officer up to maybe 10 years experience, but it's a lot of money which doesn't need to be lost to the prison.
Well, nice. Thank you so much, Olukowere, for your insights. Now, just some slight take on the political side. We've now seen that Jeremiah Kioni and David Murathe have been kicked out by, that is, we have Kanini Kega and Sabina Chege, who have won the case in court that these guys should not be part of Jubilee. How will that, from a political angle, affect Azimio la Umoja as a whole? Because we understand that Jeremiah Kioni has been on the forefront, fighting for Jubilee to be in Azimio, fighting for Jubilee to make sure that we still oppose the government, because we believe that we are having a just cause.
That one affects Azimio. And you know, if you look at the structure of Azimio, the main players in Azimio are ODM on one side, which came in. We have Kalonzo on one side, Wiper, which came in, and then you have Jubilee. So removing this, they have not per se removed Jubilee, but they have taken control of Jubilee. Yes. You see, the person on the steer wheel of a political party controls a lot of things. Yes. So this one is a punch on Azimio. It's a very, very big punch on Azimio, and they should act keenly on this one, because if you look at it, it's not per se. These two guys who are going to take the party. It's more of KK government trying to boost these people so that through them we can have control of that party. Now look at it this way. Anytime someone gets into the government, there are people who becomes hungry with the government. Yes. Like right now, whatever the KK bandwagon was saying before they got into the leadership positions is very, very different to what they're doing now. You see? So many people in Central will not be happy. However, the only vehicle that can ride in Central against KK is Jubilee. Yes. Because Jubilee is known and it has its roots. So in this case, the president is looking keenly at how do I make sure that I don't per se control Jubilee, but I make sure that it's not moving. I just stall it. So that every time they want to make any decision to move, we go to court, we stall it. Anytime they want to do something, we stall it, because for as long as it's not shining, then it will not be seen by the other side. So I can continue with my agenda, and maybe after 3 years I can go back and campaign. But not taming Jubilee is very, 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 very dangerous for the president, because it might come in to affect him in Central. Now, when it comes to Azimio, that thing has really weakened them. Because right now they are at a place that they don't need to have one arm of it still being held back.
Yes.
As the other arms are moving. And you see, some of them are coming out. We've seen when we had the Saba rally, we saw Kalonzo going out and trying to tell people in Machakos that, you know what, you guys come out and let's also be seen to be participating. You have seen Simba Arati in Kisii coming out very strong. You have seen even, was it Jeremiah, who was arrested in...
Laikipia,
yes.
Former governor.
Yes, former governor was also arrested in Laikipia. Yes. Some of the things we never used to see, because some of these mandamanos, the last time I saw them in some parts of Central was before 2002.
Yes.
Because after 2002, when Kibaki came in and then Uhuru, Muigai Kenyatta, you find that they have not had reasons to andamana. And right now, if the president is noting that these people, they are starting to buy into this idea of protesting. And the more we allow them to protest, the more it injures the place of KK.
Yes.
Because the things that they're protesting about are things that, according to Azimio, have been structured and implemented by KK. Though we know that some of them have been borrowed from the last government.
Yes.
So, in this case, the Azimio is really hurt by the Jubilee, by their people not being in control of Jubilee, though they still have the right to appeal. Yes. They can still appeal to the Court of Appeal, or even to Supreme Court if it's a matter of right. They can still appeal, but it's really hurt them.
Well, many thanks. That is Oruko Were. Remember that Kanini Kega and Sabina Chege are most likely to take control of Jubilee Party, especially after the tribunal ruled that Jeremiah Kioni and David Murathe don't have the right now to be the leaders of Jubilee Party. Well, that is also likely to affect the party itself and also the coalition Azimio la Umoja One Kenya. Remember, right now they are coming out strong to oppose the government, or rather the government's implementations and a failure to fulfill their promises. And Odinga will be expected today to launch the campaign of collecting 15 million signatures that will see President William Ruto resign. But an interesting one, just before we wind up, Oruko, if the signatures have been collected, what next?
Remember, I told you about Article 2 of the Constitution, that Kenyans can decide to directly represent themselves or through representatives to be represented. Now, when they manage to collect these signatures, then it bolsters their move to say that we don't have trust in the president and in the government. And now, this helps Azimio to sell their political ideology that we are better than the people you elected. And thus, they can start the process of requiring that a referendum is done. And now, in this case, you see the parliament is being controlled by KK. So the parliament might refuse to approve any question to be taken through referendum. But they can go through the direct approach, whereby we are coming to you through a petition under Article 2, that we, the Kenyans, have the sovereign right to make our decision. But it's a tall order, because reaching those millions is not an easy thing. We've seen in the past where we had Okwa Kenya, and some of those signatures were found to be not really good signatures. I think then they were also pushing for the same. But we must appreciate one thing, that I usually like people who don't give up. That if you're pushing for something, you push for it mindless of what's coming your way. And that's what we've always seen in Raila, trying to, no matter how many times you can fail, people can look at it as failure, but we usually say that those people who look at you as having failed and celebrate are the people who have in themselves failed first. So they want you to join them. So I would want to see where this move is taking the Azimio, because it's continuing their political process. But I will also want to see how the government will counter this. And the only way the government to counter this is to do what? To bring down the taxes, bring down the cost of living. Thank you.
Well, many thanks for joining me this morning. and for your insights specifically with regards to what next for the Finance Act immediately after the court suspended it again for the second time until Chief Justice Martha Koome constitutes a 3-judge bench that will hear and determine the case. Well, until next time, we wrap it here at EBN Morning Live with me, SAMMY ADIKA. Do have yourselves a wonderful day ahead. Let's meet at exactly 1 p.m. for the EBN News at 1 to inform you more with specific regards to Azimio la Umoja One Kenya's plan today on launching the collection of the millions of signatures from Kenyans who express discontent with the government. Well, my name is SAMMY ADIKA. Until next time, enjoy your day. Thank you so much.